Mr. Famularo, a pleasure to have you on CGTN.
It's my pleasure to be here.
You've traveled many Chinese cities. You've lived in a few. I'm counting Wuhan, Chongqing, Shanghai, Beijing. Is it possible at all to even pick a favorite?
Actually, there's a few more because I also lived in Guangzhou and Zhengzhou for a certain period of my life. So each city has its own taste.
Absolutely.
And I like most of them. I really enjoyed Guangzhou. It was my first stay in China, so of course everything was very new to my eyes because when I came to China I didn't know much about contemporary China. So, but besides that, I also really liked Chongqing because they have a very slow-paced life there. Also, Shanghai is a very exciting place. In each city I've lived, I got very nice memories. So it's very hard to pick a favorite one.
Is there a place in China that maybe reminds you of home? Naples, Italy?
Naples is a city on the sea, but it's also on a mountain. So we also have this sort of, roads always goes up and down, and we have a lot of stairs around the city. So this is quite similar to Chongqing, and this also reflects the urbanistic of the city. Like we don't have so many wide roads. Most of the roads are quite narrow and walkable. Visually, like aesthetically, China is very different from Europe.
Having traveled to over 100 cities in China has enabled you to see different parts of China. The more developed regions, the less privileged. So you will know that China is not just Beijing or Shanghai or Guangzhou or Shenzhen. How have these trips enriched your understanding of China as this enormous nation with very diverse conditions locally?
Not only from city to countryside, but even countryside to countryside or city to city. Like they have so huge differences in terms of culture, language. Sometimes traveling to the countryside in China might really feel as a trip in time. You know, you're going back to somehow to lower living standards sometimes. But I must say that this was way more real 10 years ago than it is now. The government has done a lot to reach a more equal development all over the country. Big cities tends to look all a bit kind of like the same, but by staying here and learning more, you get to experience diversity. I remember maybe on my first year in China, what impressed me the most was exactly this multicultural vibe that there is in China, especially in some cities like Xi'an or during few trips in the northwest in China, in Ningxia or in Inner Mongolia. You get to experience a lot of diversity. Like you see people with different religious background, cultural background, ethnic background, living together in a sort of harmonious way.
Your career as a sinologist started with you learning the language, started with you traveling around backpacking through China. And when people look at what you do now, they might wonder what really is sinology. Why do you study sinology? And what good does studying sinology do?
The study of China itself is something so complex because you can study China from any possible perspective. You can study its language, its culture, technology in China, modern China, ancient China. As a topic, of course, it's very important in contemporary world because China is relevant to anything. I always say when I'm back in the West, it's hard to be in any place where you cannot see anything that comes or at a certain point was in China. Besides that, what I do as a research is studying the history of cultural exchanges between China and the West. In recent years, my approach is that of trying to learn something useful today from this history. Now we live in a world in which we need to establish and secure international relationships. We need to build shared values. We need to build some common ends for humanity. Otherwise, we will always live in a world that is divided, that is full of contradictions, fights. From sinologists from the past, we can learn much because their aim was exactly to create a bridge between Chinese and Western culture. If we read writings by Matteo Ricci or by others relevant sinologists from the past, we can notice that their main focus was to translate Chinese philosophy into terms that were easily understandable by Westerners. And in doing so, they were stressing the similarities between the two traditions more than the differences.
That's a great point. You're actually drawing inspiration from past cultural exchanges between China and the West to shed light on the possibility we might find common ground even today. What have some of your findings and conclusions in your research told you about the ways we should approach this, about finding common ground and finding commonality between different cultures?
More than a finding, I would describe this as an approach, because there is an Italian philosopher who used to say that every history is contemporary history. What he meant is that when we face historical facts, we are often talking more about ourselves, our time, than the historical facts we are analyzing. Because it's like we are always wearing some sort of glasses. We are watching these things from our own perspective. We are trying to solve problems that are relevant to our time.
We put a filter on.
Yeah, we got a filter on. And this is also true when we are learning about the history of sinology, naturally. In the past, Western missionaries in China, early sinologists would stress the similarities among Stoics and Confucians in terms of talking about their moral ideas, their ethics. They would look at Chinese as part of humanity, and in this way, they were trying to express that essentially humanity is all over the same. Like we all share these basic moral principles.